Romance of Sui and Tang Dynasties, Chapter 46.
They really detail the collapse of the Sui dynasty.
Right, but with a very specific focus on that revolutionary movement, the one led by Li Mi and Zhai.
Exactly. It's just a brilliant, really detailed look at how a successful rebellion can, just tear itself apart from the inside.
And what's great is that the source material sets the thematic stage immediately, which is, it's crucial if you want to understand the tragedy.
How so?
The very first lines are, they're philosophical. It's all captured in this poem, Green Shirt is Wet, which explores this universal human defect.
That defect being?
The transition from noble intentions to pure, cynical ambition. The source describes people who are generous and kind when they're poor. They'll share their last piece of bread. But the moment they get even a little wealth and power, their whole character it flips. They become suspicious, calculating, and ultimately cruel. The novel is very clear. It says this transition, this malady, happens to 9 out of 10 people who grasp power.
It's the perfect prologue for a revolution that ends in betrayal. So, first, how Li Mi's military genius just completely eclipsed Zhai initial leadership.
Right.
Second, how prophecy and politics were used to legitimize that power shift. And finally, what specific, almost petty acts of greed and resentment planted the seeds for the violence that was, inevitable.
Yeah, this story is less about the external workings of Sui and much more about the internal politics. It's the classic anatomy of a regime that gets consumed by its own success.
Where loyalty becomes a liability.
The moment it's no longer convenient, yes.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting at the foundation.
Okay.
Before anyone could rule, they had to unite. And the source material really emphasizes this deep loyalty that was forged right at the start. Key generals like Qin Shubao, Shan Xianxin, and Lu Shixin. They only joined the cause after they were allowed to perform this act of honor.
Which was burying their fallen leader, Zhang Zutu.
Right, respectfully.
And that initial glue of shared honor, it was strong. But, honor doesn't win wars, strategy does. And that's where you immediately see the division in their capabilities.
Yeah.
Qin Shubao, who's the seasoned general, he offers the first critical piece of strategic advice. He says, forget these long sieges. Let's use swift, light cavalry to seize the eastern capital, Dongdu.
That's a bold move, a huge political statement.
It was a decisive strategy. It was designed to establish a political center immediately. And Zhai, the original leader, he agrees. But his implementation, it's clumsy.
Because he's more of a bandit chieftain, not a general.
Exactly. He sends his own scout, a man named Pei Shufang, to just openly gather intelligence.
Openly.
On routes, defenses, everything. There was no subtlety.
And the immediate cost of that clumsiness was what?
Disaster. Total disaster. The scouts were immediately captured and executed. But worse, the Sui realized precisely where Zhai was planning to strike.
So Dongdu reinforces its defenses.
Instantly. And that whole window of opportunity for a swift victory just slams shut. It was a failure of operational security that just screamed Zhai lacked the finesse for this kind of political warfare.
The moment was almost lost. But this is the turning point, right?
Yeah.
This is where Li Mi cements his authority.
This is it.
He pivots away from the now reinforced capital and targets something far more practical.
The Luku Granary, Luku Kang. Li Mi, along with his core team, Cheng Ziji and Lu Shixin, they execute this rapid, stealthy operation.
And the source specifically says the granary was taken without the use of bow or arrow.
Not a bloody battle. It was a coup, just executed with surgical precision.
The significance of the granary, you can't overstate it. We're talking about food security during a catastrophic famine. This isn't just a military base.
It's the lifeline of the whole region. Right. And the source really emphasizes the immediate socio-political impact. Li Mi opens the granary to the poor, and you get this mass civilian defection to his side.
And not just civilians.
Crucially, no. You get intellectual defection. Scholars, officials who are fed up with the Sui court, people like Shida Rui and Zhu Junyan, they rush to join Li Mi. They see him as a competent savior.
So the Sui court obviously has to react to losing its entire supply chain.
They mobilize immediately.
Oh.
25,000 troops led by Lu Rengong, coordinating with another general, Pei Renji.
But Li Mi was ready.
Oh, he was ready. This is where his military fame just explodes, and the balance of power inside the rebellion tips for good. Li Mi mobilizes 5 elite divisions and just smashes the main Sui force.
Thrashes them.
Utterly. Li Rengong barely escapes with his life, and when Pei Renji hears about the rout, he just halts his advance completely, doesn't even try.
So he didn't just win. He established himself as the only rebel capable of decisively defeating the imperial army. His victory wasn't just military, it was reputational.
Precisely. His name became synonymous with competence, while Zhai, the original leader, he's now associated with that initial clumsy failure at Dongdu. The stage was set.
Which brings us to the political maneuvering. Zhai Rang's the founder, but Li Mi has the talent, the momentum, and the grain. So why does Zhai Rang just yield leadership?
Well, it was a very skillful combination of political pressure and what you could call divine manipulation. Zhai Rang just couldn't compete with the talent Li Mi was attracting.
And Li Mi's strategist, Jia Zhang, he provides the justification that lets Zhai Rang save face.
He does, and this is where they get into the literal use of language and lore, which is just such a telling detail about the time.
They weaponize his own name against him.
They do. Jia Zhang argues that the family name Zhai, which means marsh or lake, destined him to support Li Mi. The lore said that the reed, or pu, grows from the marsh. Pu de ze er sheng.
So he's literally the ground from which Li Mi, the true leader, is meant to grow.
It's brilliant political theater. He's essentially telling Zhai Rang his destiny is to be the foundation for someone else.
And if that wasn't enough, they also had this kind of folk marketing campaign already running.
Yes, the public prophecy. The peach and plum son, which referred to the exiled Li family being destined to rule.
Right.
And then there was the more textual justification tied to the Sui ruler's downfall, this phrase, "Do not speak carelessly, who allowed this?" which supposedly contained the hidden character for me. So Li Mi's people. They engineered not just military victories, but a whole ideological superstructure, declaring him divinely sanctioned.
With Zhai Rang morally and politically cornered, the transition formalizes. Li Mi becomes the Duke of Wei, the Wei Gong, and even establishes his own era name.
Young Peng Yuan Nian. And Zhai Rang gets this honorific title, highest pillar of state and Duke of Dongjun. He's respected, but he's been stripped of all functional power.
And Li Mi's legitimacy just skyrockets when he starts attracting these high-level defectors from the very system he's fighting.
Right, it wasn't just disgruntled officials anymore, it was professional military talent. General Pei Renji is the first big one.
The same general who had stopped his advance earlier.
The very same. He defects with his son, Pei Xingyan. This was a massive win. Li Mi wasn't just defeating generals, he was recruiting them. But maybe the most enduring acquisition was the scholar Wei Zheng,
who later becomes one of the greatest ministers in all of Tang history. What was his role here?
Wei Zheng was a former Taoist priest, and he'd been serving as an administrator secretary. He advised his boss to surrender city peacefully to Qin Shubao.
Why?
He argued that resistance was futile. He said it was like trying to dam a river with broken earth. His pragmatic genius was instantly obvious.
And it was military man Qin Shubao who recognized his political talent.
Yes, he personally recommends Wei Zheng to Li Mi, describing him as having talent worthy of a king's advisor, Wang Zhou.
That phrase, Wang Zhou, that's about the highest compliment you could pay a scholar.
It declares him indispensable to statecraft. Li Mi immediately makes him literary secretary. So if you connect the dots, Li Mi didn't just inherit a bandit crew, he created a functioning, educated administration. And this left Zhai Rang feeling completely redundant.
And here we are, right back at that opening poem. The seeds of discord were planted the moment Zhai Rang became the highest pillar of state instead of the king. The movement had won the war, but it immediately starts losing the peace.
The organism must first decay before the worm is born. The source is very clear. The friction wasn't from a new Sui army, it was internal rot. It came from how prestige and spoils were being distributed.
And we can identify, what, 3 main sources of this resentment?
I think so, yes. 3 distinct sources that created this atmosphere of suspicion.
So let's detail them, because they really explain why the betrayal felt so inevitable.
Okay, so first you have Zhai Rang's own personal insecurity. He was a brave fighter, but the source says he was without strategy. He felt acutely inadequate watching all these capable new people flock to Li Mi.
He regretted giving up power.
Deeply. But he didn't know how to take it back politically. So second, his brother, Zhai Hong, just poured fuel on that fire.
What did he do?
Zhai Hong was a malicious hothead. He constantly complained that the family's power was lightly given away, and now they were, and this is a quote, taking breath from his throat. It's pure envy.
And the third group creates the organizational structure for this dissent.
Right. The marginalized staff. The original rougher followers who were loyal to Zhai Rang, they found themselves pushed aside into what the source calls the cold bureau, watching Li Mi's new polished associates thrive.
So Zhai Rang had the motive. And now he had the willing instruments to undermine Li Mi.
Exactly.
And this tension starts erupting in these very specific telling incidents. The first one is just pure financial extortion.
Right. Zhai Rang, feeling entitled, just demands money from Kuishishu, one of Li Mi's new officials.
And when Li Mi politely asked for it to be returned,
Zhai Rang flat out refuses. This wasn't about the money. It was a public test of who really controlled the treasury, who had the ultimate authority.
then there's the outright physical disrespect.
Xing Yiki, one of Li Mi's staff, was late for a chess game. A minor thing. Zhai Rang uses it as an excuse to have the man punished with 80 strokes. It was a clear message. I still have disciplinary power over the Duke of Wei's men.
And the final incident, which is basically an undeniable declaration of war.
The open threat. Fang Yanzhao, another of Li Mi's staff, comes back from a successful mission, and Zhai Rang demands the loot.
And what does he say?
He says, and this is chilling, Weigong was established by me. The future is unknown. That's not a suggestion. That's Zhai Rang serving notice he felt entitled to revoke the legitimacy he had granted.
Which brings us directly to the calculus of betrayal. Li Mi's core staff, Fang Yanzhao, the recently beaten Xing Yiki, and Zheng Quan, they can't let this go on.
They gather and they urge Li Mi to eliminate Zhai Rang immediately.
But Li Mi struggles with this. He has a moral dilemma.
He does. He remembers their initial loyalty and the fact that Zhai Rang had saved him from a calamity in the past. He's worried about the optics, about being seen as disloyal and jealous.
But if he was so astute, why couldn't he see the threat for so long? Was it genuine loyalty, or was it a fatal political blindness?
His staff saw it as blindness disguised as morality. They were ruthless in their arguments. They prioritized the survival of the movement over Li Mi's reputation.
And they use that famous, terrifying analogy.
The analogy of the poisonous snake.
Mellis.
Poisonous snake bites the hand, the strong man cuts off the wrist. Their message was clear. Deal with this contained threat now, or risk the poison spreading and killing the whole movement.
Wow.
They warned him that seeking the empty reputation of tolerance would only lead to his own actual disaster of execution.
And they make this chilling point about Zhai Rang. It's easy to dismiss him as crude and strategically inept, but they say that's precisely what makes him so dangerous.
Yes. They argued he might lack finesse, but rough men, bold and vicious, act the most cruelly. A crude man doesn't need a 3-year plan. He just needs a moment of rage and a sword. That unpredictability was the greatest danger.
And that convinced Li Mi.
It did. He finally conceded that delay was dangerous, and he gave the order. He told his staff to formulate a foolproof plan, one that would eliminate the threat from the Zhai brothers while minimizing the political fallout. And he doesn't do it on the battlefield. He does it at a feast, a treacherous feast.
But wait, just strategically, wasn't this assassination incredibly short-sighted? I mean, Li Mi needed Zhai Rang's military power, his support, especially with rivals like Wang Shicheng right there.
It was paranoia disguised as strategy. That's really what it was. He was terrified that any military failure would mean Zhai Rang could just reclaim command.
So he had to get rid of him.
Instantly and ruthlessly. Before Zhai Rang's personal guards, these are hardened soldiers who would fight to the death before they could even react.
Okay, let's unpack this calculated execution, because the planning is, it's chilling. He sets the physical trap first.
Right. He orders pretty much all the troops and their guards outside the camp. This ensures Zhai Rang's own security detail is totally isolated. But he goes even further. He uses this false gesture of generosity.
The wine and food.
Precisely. Before the feast even starts, Li Mi's aide makes this big show of concern. He says, it's a bitterly cold day. Let's give Zhai Rang's staff extra wine and food for their hardships.
And Li Mi jumps on it, ordering this huge ration. So Zhai Rang, seeing this, just waves his own men off. Go on, get your share.
He has absolutely no idea. He's just sent away the very men who could have saved his life.
And once they're gone, this is where the distraction comes in. Li Mi starts talking about new weapons. I recently got several exceptional bows, he says.
He has them brought out, and he hands one to Zhai Rang, calling it an 8-stone bow. Now, that detail, the 8-stone bow, is so important.
What does that mean exactly, a stone?
It's a measure of draw weight. An 8-stone bow would have required a draw weight of maybe 240 pounds, maybe even more. This isn't just a bow, it's a warrior's challenge.
And Zhai Rang, being the warrior he is, he takes the bait. He says with a bit of pride, this is merely a 6-stone bow. And he put all his focus into drawing it.
Pulling it back into a perfect, taut, full moon shape, showing off his strength, but his back is completely turned to the room. His focus is entirely on that bow.
And that's the moment.
That's the exact second Li Mi planned for. While Zhai Rang is completely concentrated, Li Mi's strongman, Kai Jiande, strikes him down from behind with a knife.
So fast.
Terrifyingly fast and ruthless. The source says Zhai Rang fell instantly, making this horrible bellowing sound like a bull being slaughtered. A hero of 100 battles, gone in a single strike.
This wasn't just murder, it was a political earthquake. And the noise of that betrayal, it echoed far beyond that dining hall. It sent a message to every other general.
The message was, Li Mi is unpredictable and none of you are safe.
The fallout begins immediately.
Right away.
Meanwhile, miles away, there's a totally different meeting happening. 3 of the most senior Weigong generals, Shan Xianxin, Xu Maogong, and Li Rugi, are all together.
They have no idea what's just happened. But then a messenger bursts in and announces that the marshal has hacked down Zhai. Stu being an honorific, confirming it was an execution.
And Shan Xianxin's reaction is it's visceral. He drops his cup, he's horrified. He laments their shared past, saying, "We started this uprising together. How could this day come?"
But not everyone sees it that way. We get this cynical counterpoint from another general, Bing Yanjin. He basically says this was bound to happen. He quotes an old proverb.
2 heroes cannot share a nest.
Exactly. For him, this wasn't a tragedy. It was just a brutal but necessary power struggle.
But Zhu Maogong, the strategist, he is the most insightful take. When they ask who he pities, he says, "I do not pity Brother Zhai. I only pity Li Doji. He pities Li Mi."
And that is the ultimate political indictment. Zhu Maogong knew that while Zhai Rang's death was tragic, Li Mi's willingness to commit treachery, that was his fatal flaw, his undoing.
He won control, but he just destroyed his own moral authority.
He did, and right at that moment, as they're processing this internal collapse, a representative of their chief rival walks right into the heart of their command. The timing is just staggering.
This man is Du Rui. He's there looking for another famous general, Qin Shubao, who, luckily for him, isn't there.
The audacity of it is incredible. While Weigong is literally fracturing from fear, the Tang faction is already on the ground, recruiting.
And Du Rui himself is an interesting character. The source tells us he'd been a magistrate under the old Sui dynasty, but was dismissed.
He refused to serve under all the corruption. He felt the petty duties were, beneath a man who wanted to achieve great things.
So he's exactly the kind of person who would see the massive strategic error Li Mi just made. He gets that ambition has to be married to virtue.
Right. And he's looking for a true leader, not a murderer.
So Li Rugi, seeing an opportunity, pulls him aside for a private meeting. Du Rui immediately senses the tension and asks what's going on. They tell him plainly about the assassination.
And Li Rugi confirms their collective unease. He says Li Mi's actions are too ruthless. They're already looking for a way out.
And this is where Du Rui delivers his recruitment pitch. And it's brilliant. It's all about character, not military power.
He mentions his contacts back in Taiwan, says the true leader, Li Yuan, is about to rise. But the clincher, the part designed to appeal to these disillusioned men, is his description of Li Yuan's son, Li Shimin.
He paints a picture that is the polar opposite of Li Mi.
He says Li Shimin is broad and generous, someone who treats scholars and talented men well. This isn't just PR, it's a strategic appeal directly to their fear.
They weren't looking for a strong general. They were looking for a secure boss who wouldn't stab them in the back.
And that contrast, it instantly seals the deal for some of them. Li Mi used power to create fear. Li Shimin used his reputation to build trust.
You can see the division right away. One of the generals, Qi Guiyuan, he stubbornly refuses. He says he'd rather be a happy bandit in the mountains. He wants chaos, not orders.
But Li Rugi is open to it, and that's the turning point. Li Mi's moral failure costs him a key figure who now actively wants a leader known for benevolence.
His character, or lack of it, was his biggest liability.
Absolutely. And then things accelerate dramatically. As they're debating this, Hao Xiaode, who is at the feast, bursts in.
For a second, it looks like a disaster. He grabs Du Rui, shouting, "Aha! You're trying to recruit people. I'll drag you to the marshal."
It's pure theater. Everyone thinks they're caught. They're grabbing their knives, ready to fight their way out.
But then Hao Xiaode just lets him go. He laughs, says he heard the whole pitch, and agrees completely.
He confirms that this feeling is widespread. He even says one of their advisors, Wei Zhang, had already predicted that the true master is in Taiwan.
And he explains that killing Zhai Rang made all the other generals feel like worthless shoes.
Just disposable. The fear is palpable. Then Hao Xiaode drops the critical intel. Li Mi is suspicious of everyone and is planning a major assault on their rival, Wang Shichong, tomorrow morning.
If they stay, they're trapped. Either they die in battle or in Li Mi's next purge. Hao Xiao's warning is simple. Delay brings change.
And that very night, they leave. It's an urgent, immediate departure. They pack up their horses and head straight for Jinyang, the Tang base.
The loyalty shift was complete before Li Mi even woke up the next morning.
Incredible.
But the narrative shifts one last time. A few days later, as they're racing toward their new masters, they're still keeping their eyes open for talent. They're in the midwinter snow near Shuiazhu, and they stop at a blacksmith shop.
It's this beautiful little historical vignette. They hear the loud clang of a hammer, and sitting outside the shop, drinking bowl after bowl of wine and eating huge amounts of meat, is this astonishing figure.
He's described in such incredible detail. 9 feet tall, broad shoulders, a full beard, eyes like bright stars, and a face the color of iron. He's just raw, unpolished talent.
And then they witness this truly bizarre transaction. 2 locals come up to this giant and ask him to write a promissory note, a ticket, to borrow 500 taels of silver from the state treasury.
A huge amount of money.
A fortune. And the weirdest part is, the 2 men asking for the loan are the ones giving the giant the paper to write on. He just laughs, wondering why they're asking a poor blacksmith for a loan.
But he agrees. He takes the brush and writes the line that reveals his identity. Wei Qigong authorizes the withdrawal of 500 taels of silver.
And there it is. This is Wei Qigong, courtesy name Jingde. The source notes he has the strength of 2,000 to 3,000 caddies.
Which is what in perspective?
1,000 caddies is about 1,300 pounds. So this man can supposedly lift over a ton. He wields a solid iron whip. He's educated, but he failed his exams and refused to serve the corrupt state, choosing to run the family blacksmith shop instead.
Duruhui is instantly impressed. He recognizes this raw talent right away. What a good fellow, he exclaims. He wants to stop right then and there and recruit him for the Tang.
But Hao Xiaodi, still terrified of delay, urges him on. They have to get to Jinyang. It's too risky to wait.
So they leave. But Duruhui now has this critical piece of information. He knows exactly where to find this immense untapped talent when the time is right.
Something much more strategic is starting up somewhere else.
Yes. We are opening up a really fascinating source on the founding of one of the world's great empires, the Tang Dynasty.
And what's so compelling is that we often think of these founders as, men of destiny, charging out to conquer the world from day one.
Right.
But our sources for Li Yuan, the man who founded the Tang, paint a totally different picture. This was a man who, frankly, did not want the job.
He didn't want the throne.
Not at all. He was a survivor.
Yeah.
And he had to be pushed, really forced into greatness.
Exactly. So we're diving into a period around 617 CE. The Sui dynasty, which was once this powerhouse, is just completely falling apart.
It's in total chaos. Yeah. The emperor, Sui Yangdi, he'd basically bankrupted the state with these disastrous wars and massive building projects.
And the result was famine, revolt, just chaos. The sources have this great phrase for it. They say the rebels were everywhere, like a swarm of insects doze Fuji.
And you have to understand Li Yuan's personal spot here. He's the Duke of Tang. He's a big deal. But he's also on thin ice with the emperor. He's stationed way out in Taiwan. And his main goal, according to the text, was just avoiding disaster. Qimiang Huo. He was trying to keep his head down.
So if he's just trying to survive, and the source is clear, he had no initial intention to conquer the world.
Ne yu sin tu tiangxia.
Right. So how does he end up founding an empire that lasts for 300 years?
Well, that's the story. It's not a grand military epic. It's a tight, almost claustrophobic conspiracy.
A conspiracy that's all about political math, psychological games, and a huge moral compromise. It's basically about taking away all of his other options.
It's the ultimate political entrapment. And to see how they did it, we first have to meet the person who's really driving this whole thing.
His son.
His very ambitious second son.
Okay, let's unpack this high-stakes family drama. It all starts with Li Yuan's 4 sons.
Well, 4 sons, but the sources really only focus on the ones who matter for the later drama.
Right, they're already setting up the conflict.
They are. So you have the eldest, Jiancheng, who's the heir. The source is... well, it's pretty dismissive. Calls him an ordinary gongzi.
Someone mostly into, wine and women.
Exactly. Danju, you say. Then you have the 4th son, Yonji, who's described as extremely cunning and tricky.
Jushi, Jimu Jiahua.
Yes. But he lacks that special something, the vision of a true leader.
Wait, I have to jump in here. This description of Jiancheng, the wine and women bit, How much of that is real, and how much is the source already trying to justify what happens to him later?
That is the absolute key question you have to ask. These texts are written to legitimize the winner, and the winner was, of course, the second son.
Li Shimin.
Li Shimin. And the source just heaps praise on him. It presents him as this pivotal, almost destined figure right from birth.
And this is where that incredible story comes in, the prophecy.
The prophecy. When Shimin is only 4 years old, some unnamed scholar just appears, delivers this stunning prediction, and then vanishes.
He says the boy has a dragon phoenix appearance and a sun-moon countenance.
Longfengzi, Tianrizi Biao. I mean, language like that is a giant flashing sign that says destiny.
And the prophecy itself was explicit.
Oh, completely. By age 20, he will surely be able to aid the world and calm the people. And Li Yuan was at first terrified. I mean, if the paranoid emperor hears that, his whole family is dead. But then the scholar disappears, and he takes it as a sign.
And he names his son Shimin to aid the people.
He literally builds the prophecy into his name. And Shimin, well, he lives up to it. He's brilliant. He masters military arts, history.
But his really superpower, politically speaking, was his generosity.
Absolutely. The source makes a huge deal of this. He gets this reputation for using his own wealth to gather talented people.
King Kai Hao Shi Bin Jike.
He wasn't just being nice. He was spending money like dirt, as the text says, to build a network. A shadow cabinet, really.
So he's got the ambition, he's got the people, but he still needs a real strategy and a way to get his terrified father on board.
And that's when the strategist shows up, a man named Lu Wenjing.
Lu Wenjing. He's the Jinyang magistrate.
Right, a top official. The sources say he's got both strategy and military talent. Bo Yuzi Mu Kai Jion Wenwu.
When Shimin finds him, he's in prison.
Locked up in Taiyuan prison, he was connected to another major rebel, Li Mi.
So he's a brilliant guy with absolutely nothing left to lose. Shimin sees an opportunity.
A huge one. He risks everything to go visit Wenjing in his cell, secretly. And that meeting, that's the real start of the Tang Dynasty.
Wenjing doesn't mess around, does he?
No, he gets right to it. He tells Shimin, look, the world is in total chaos, Tianxia de Luan, and only a truly great man, a founder on the level of the ancient kings, can fix this.
He's testing him.
He is. And Shimin just leans in and says he's here to discuss great matters. That's all Wenjing needed to hear.
And then he lays out the whole plan. The grand strategy.
And it's brilliant. First, he says the timing is perfect. The Sui emperor is gone, way down south in Jiangdu.
He's checked out.
Completely. So the heartland is wide open. Second, recruitment. Wenjing says we can gather up all the terrified people who fled into the city.
The Taiyuan Beixing.
Yes, plus his own network of local heroes. He says they can raise tens of thousands of men, fast.
And you combine those civilians with Li Yuan's professional army, which is already there.
Exactly. This isn't some tiny rebel gang. It's a legitimate-looking army from day one.
And the goal is just incredibly bold. Strike west, enter the pass, and the empire will be yours in 6 months.
It's a blitzkrieg, a plan for total victory, not just survival.
And Li Shimin is completely on board. He says, your words exactly match my intent.
He's all in. But they both know the biggest hurdle isn't the Sui army.
It's his own dad.
It's Li Yuan.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Li Yuan's fear is completely rational. Treason means death for everyone he's ever known.
And Wenjing gets that. So he says, we can't convince him with logic. We need a lever. We need Peiji.
Peiji, the Jinyang Palace supervisor, and crucially, Li Yuan's best friend.
His closest confidant. The source says Li Yuan followed his advice without exception.
Wu Yan Bukong.
Okay, so if they can get Peiji, they can get Li Yuan. But Peiji is loyal to the emperor.
So how do you corrupt the most loyal man at court?
You find his weakness.
And Li Yumin knew it. Gambling and drinking. How Chi Ju Du Kan.
So this is basically a bribe.
But a really surgical one? Shimin gets another official to start gambling with Peiji, and he just intentionally loses.
Over and over again.
Huge sums of money. Tens of thousands of coins. It's not a one-time payment. It's a campaign to get Peiji indebted to Shimin's faction, emotionally and financially.
That is some next-level strategic thinking, and it works.
It works. Peiji sees which way the wind is blowing, and he signs on. And the plan he comes up with to corner Li Yuan is...
well, it's just ruthless.
He knows Li Yuan will never agree to treason on his own.
So he decides Li Yuan has to commit an act of treason without knowing he's doing it.
An unforgivable act.
The most unforgivable. So he goes to the imperial palace in Jinyang, and he seeks out two specific people. The palace concubines, Zhang Fei and Yin Fei.
And he doesn't start with ambition. He starts with fear.
He does. He points out the window at the chaos, at the rebels nearby, and he tells them, "You are not safe here."
He makes it personal. He says, when the walls fall, you'll be killed or worse.
Right. He's using that Tianxia Daluan, the chaos of the world, as his weapon, and it terrifies them.
And that's when he dangles the prize.
The ultimate prize. He says, attach yourselves to Li Yuan now, and you'll go from being in mortal danger to being future empresses. Non-consort, definitely empress.
They pin Jihu, and they agree.
They already admired Li Yuan, so the source says it wasn't a hard sell. The trap is now set.
Peiji throws a huge party for Li Yuan.
Gets him completely, hopelessly drunk. Then he says he has two beautiful women who'd like to serve the Duke Cup.
And he brings in Zhang Fei and Yin Fei.
And the source gets almost poetic here, describing them as flower sweet, willow charming, jade giving birth to spring.
Hua Yan Liu Mei Yu Sheng Chun.
Li Yuan is drunk, he's charmed, and he's led away to the dragon bed, the emperor's bed. And he sleeps with the emperor's concubines.
And the next morning, he wakes up.
And that moment of realization, the sheer horror of it, he knows instantly what he's done. This is high treason, the kind that gets your whole clan executed.
His first words are just this cry of betrayal.
Yeah.
Peiji has ruined me.
And Peiji is right there, waiting for him, ready to capitalize on that psychological collapse.
He doesn't offer any comfort. He just gives him the ultimatum.
He says, you're already dead. If you try to cling to your small moral principles, your loyalty, it's over.
The only way out
is to raise an army. Turn this disaster, this huo, into a blessing, a fu.
But Li Yuan is still hesitating. He's still terrified. And that's when Peiji drops the final bomb.
He just laughs at him. And he says, I conspired with your young master for this urgent scheme.
He reveals the whole thing.
The whole thing. He tells him this was all planned. Shimin knows, I know, the women know. If this gets out, we all die, including your son.
And right on cue, Li Shimin walks in.
He confirms the story. He tells his father the crime is already done. There's no going back. Rebellion is the only path to survival.
And Li Yuan is just completely trapped.
He's cornered. His fear of execution, the fact that his own son set him up, it finally breaks him.
He just sighs, and he says those famous words, breaking the family and losing the body is up to you. Transforming the family into the nation is also up to you.
And just like that, the game is over. The decision is made. The Tang dynasty is born out of blackmail.
The action from that point is immediate. Li Yuan summons his other sons, Jiansheng and Yuanji, to Taiwan.
They're all in this together now. But of course, they can't announce the real reason for the rebellion.
No, the official story has to be a bit more noble.
A lot more noble. They claim they're only acting to depose the corrupt ruler and establish the clear-minded.
Fei Hun Liming.
And they pretend they're doing it in support of the child regent back in the capital, Chang'an. It's a temporary cover.
But the source is clear. Li Yuan immediately claims the ultimate prize. He declares himself emperor, founds the Tang dynasty, and names the new era Wud.
And the new hierarchy is set. Jiancheng, as the eldest, is named Crown Prince, the Taisi.
And Shimin, the guy who actually made it all happen.
He's named the Prince of Qin, Qin Wang.
Yeah.
And he's immediately sent out with the army to do what he does best, fight.